I used to do lots of things.
I used to do things and I'd say things and Jesus I was evil. Take things and break things and Jesus I was evil. I never shook, baby.
Oh, there's not just 9 acceptable toppings.
It's around there.
No. Well, I was hoping that maybe you could do like jokes about like the differences between male pizzas and female pizzas, but I mean,
White pizza and black
black
pizza. What's white supremacy pizza?
That's
No
the one
sauce.
place where whites are never supreme is pizza. White pizza is anytime someone
No.
orders a white pizza, I just oh god.
Yeah, I don't get it.
No.
I like it.
Oh,
Well,
my
it's got to be done
God.
right. It's got to be done right, though.
Oh,
In
my
California,
God.
of course.
Yeah.
California people love
California.
white pizza.
I know. Yeah, we do.
God.
Any excuse they can get to make it not pizza.
Ben and I, we were actually talking about that. It's like, yeah, like California, like we don't have like a really signature style of pizza. It just seems like it's like any other style of pizza that's not regular pizza. It's like, yeah, we'll put pineapple, we'll put vegetables and broccolini on it and shit.
Heterodox
Kale.
pizza.
Just cracks
Hell.
the ab.
Oh, shoot me.
It's just like a vegan throw up on it.
Vegan throw up pizza. That's actually in the latest Goop article.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Oh,
Vegan throw up pizza.
oh.
Funny enough, I've actually served
$49.
pizza to Gwyneth Paltrow.
Really?
Yes.
Did she just go, ew? That's gross. What'd she say? Did she say thank you?
No, so we I used to work on a food truck that made pizza. And we worked her son's birthday party
Really?
at her house. Yeah.
What
That's
was it?
awesome.
What was it nice?
It was beautiful. I didn't go inside. We were on the property, but you know.
Right. So where's her place at?
Check
Is it like Beverly Hills?
Well, what's her
Calabasas?
address?
Yeah, her exact.
What's her
Goodness.
address? When is she
this
home?
was like when I first moved to LA, so it was at the point where I didn't know what the different neighborhoods were. I just got an address and I put it in my GPS. So I couldn't even tell you where it is.
It's like when everything's just Venice Beach.
Yeah. So Pat, you're a comedian. Welcome back, man. This is your third or fourth
I think
time?
fourth,
on?
right?
Might be the fourth. It's at least
Because
my
you've been on
third.
with Vinny. He's been on with
That's
Vinny.
Yeah, I've done at least one virtually, one in person.
Oh, that's right. We did the in-person ones.
Yeah.
Oh, we did, baby.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I was wasted for those.
Yes, you were. Yeah, and jet lagged, and on coffee,
lagged,
and all
too.
kinds.
Yeah.
Oh,
So I think, this is third or fourth. Episode 89. 89?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. What are we even doing?
You have to get me one of those
This-
jackets like the people who host SNL 5 times.
Oh, did they get a jacket?
Do they really? Did they get like an actual jacket?
I don't know if they do, but it was in that skit. So they at least got a jacket for that skit.
Oh, okay.
Wow. Gotcha. Well, welcome back to episode 89 of the Reckless Musecast.
And
It's good to be back.
yeah. So you're still doing stand-up comedy, I hope?
Yeah.
How do you think he could afford that house?
That's true, yeah.
It's what's paying for all of this?
This is open mic night money, baby.
If you also spend $5 every Tuesday, you could live in a house like this. Gotta spend money to make money, boys.
Right.
Oh man.
How's
So
how's that going?
Yeah.
How are you?
I mean, it's good. It's one of the like I'm doing all the dumb shit where like you gotta put jokes online and everything, which I hate doing because I'm stupid and I'm bad at editing video and it's the dumbest thing. Like I my ideal profession in life is to talk in front of people, but I hate putting it online where other people can watch it. Makes me
Right.
feel bad about myself. But,
So are you editing your own stuff? Or are you editing other people's stuff or what?
oh no, I'm just good enough to figure out how to edit my own things. Nobody is paying me to edit their stuff.
I watched one of those edited things recently. So let's talk about Lizzo.
Lizzo. Oh yes.
Yeah. So she's still fat.
Still
Is it
fat.
not as fat though, or still?
I think she's still just as fat.
Oh, I thought she lost weight and caught flack for it. Is that not true?
No.
I know Adele, that happened to
I
Adele.
know Adele. I thought
That's
that also
Adele.
happened to Lizzo, and then she like apologized for losing someone. No, like Adele had like a total change. Like Adele
yeah.
got thin. I'm not saying Lizzo got thin. I said she lost some weight.
Oh, okay.
And,
No, I don't think she did.
oh, all right. So still fat. And but Spin Zone,
More importantly.
more importantly, giving her backup dancer shit for also being fat, which sounds like a joke I would have written in like 2020.
Right.
It's kind of like what's it? Reality is beyond parody.
All right. You think she did that because like she was like embarrassed? She's like, ooh, we don't have one fat queen on stage. Like, maybe it's like she didn't want to be upstaged.
No one can be fatter than me. You can be fat, but watch how fat you're getting.
No, I've listened to some of this, and I think she's just kind of mean, and it wasn't just like fat shaming. In fact, it kind of seemed like a small part of it that's just getting obvious attention because it's hypocritical. But there's also like some other kind of gross shit. There was they were at a sex show in Amsterdam, her and her crew, and it had like sex dancers, I guess, because they're not really strippers, so like more putting on a show, like shooting bananas out of their pussies, and then like Lizzo, I don't know if she didn't put a gun to anyone's head and say eat it, but like made one of her dancers eat it, and that's one of the main gripes. Which to me, like in Amsterdam, that's just lunch. Like I don't know.
That's the whole point of my joke is that like she's in trouble for way worse stuff.
Yeah.
Then what?
Fat shaming. Then fat shaming.
Exactly.
But it's all anyone cares about because that's the funniest.
That's the funniest. Yeah. I mean, some of it's kind of cruel. Like I heard like 12-hour auditions that, I mean, that would make a very fit person in agony, let alone big girls. Making big girls.
Her tour company is called Big Girl Big Touring. Girl spelled GRRRL. I mean, so maybe it's kind of what you should expect if you're gonna like apply to work for Lizzo. Like that's the kind of treatment you should be getting. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I feel like it's more of a. It sounds like it's more of a. You ever work? I never have, thank God. But like, I know this is a big thing, kind of like startup culture. I know, Joe, you worked in that, like startup culture, like very like finance kind of shit, very New York coastal, maybe some other cities, but like going kind of, you don't have to go out for drinks with your boss, but you kind of do.
Yeah.
And it's like, fuck, man, I just want to go home. And there's that pressure. And if like you're the only one not doing it, I think it was a lot of that, but it wasn't like drinks. It was eating like pussy bananas. Stuff like that. So it's like, did she have to go to the sex show? No, but she kind of did.
Right.
And I guess maybe that's not always fair to the bosses, but I think it was, and also some applied pressure.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing: is it's one thing if she just made them go to a sex show, but once you start making them, you can go out to drinks with your boss, but once he starts making you eat bananas out of someone's pussy, that's when I go, maybe a line's been crossed here.
Some people are allergic to bananas.
That too. That's the important part of this.
Or pussy.
Fruits and grapes. Some people are allergic to pussy. So they're called gay men.
Lots of Lizzo's fans.
Yeah, I mean, and fruit's a gamble. I found out late in life, like 5 6 years ago, I'm allergic to papaya.
Whoa.
Pat, you muted yourself, by the way. Yeah. I'm allergic to papaya, which is the only food I'm allergic to, which is very strange. Like I'm not allergic to any other fruit or any food. So it's a health risk.
Yeah, well, papaya kind of sucks, to be honest.
I didn't really come from papaya eating culture, so I guess I didn't know until late in life. But
it's one of those weird fruits that doesn't taste like a fruit. It has like a weird, like, I don't know, like almost like jello-y consistency.
I don't really know because my throat
just the freshness of like a fruit.
So what I did was I thought I was, because I had like a piece of papaya a while ago.
Sure.
And then what I was doing was I was getting a dried fruit and nut mix and eating it like every day at work, not knowing papaya was in it. And I felt a little weird. I was like, oh shit, there's papaya in this. Let's do an experiment. So I just took pieces of the dried papaya and ate it, and I'm definitely allergic. So instead of going to a doctor, I just did my own research, and turns out I'm allergic, and I'm still here.
It's just a mango that got really tired and couldn't quite do it. So so you're not missing out on much.
Yeah.
I
I actually like dried papaya, but fresh papaya I could live without.
Well, you can have mine. I'll ship it to you.
Send it.
Just mail it out. All your dried papaya.
So nice, man. So that was a good opening conversation. Lizzo.
Is there any more about Lizzo?
No.
No, touch. Okay, moving on.
I just think it's so wild because she had the TV show Here Come the Big Girls, where she picked her big fat dancers.
Oh, right.
That's how she met these big fat dancers that she has.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
And to make it's one thing to make your brand about being body positive because you're a big fat fatty, and then turn on your people.
Right.
But to then also be like, I need more big fat fatties around me. And then be like, you're too fucking fat is such a wild move.
It seems like kind of a bait and switch.
Yeah. No.
It doesn't seem very fair.
Yeah. Like
It's a weird power move.
Hate fat people. Just be the only fat person.
Yeah. Maybe that's what she's going to do now.
Well, Tim Dillon had the best take. Her only career move now is to get skinny.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the only way forward. She has to turn Adele.
Just a total pivot.
Yeah.
And
I don't know.
Just turn on fat people too.
Oh.
Not just like be skinny and still be
Like
body positive.
Yeah.
She has to tell all the fat people that they're disgusting. Being fat is immoral.
Yeah, it's like Rod Blagojevich now who's like the Democratic mayor of Chicago is like a huge Trump guy because Trump commuted his sentence or whatever, gave him what's it called, clemency.
Yeah.
So now he's like a huge Trump guy.
I mean, you see that a lot in in the culture war stuff, where it's like when you have someone who's pretty left leaning, and then like they say something like, "Hey, just because a woman has a penis, and it's like, oh, hey, how dare you say that?" And it's like, all right, fine, I guess I'm hanging out with Tucker Carlson now, and it's like,
because I'm a Republican now.
Yeah, it's funny. They're never just like, no, I still have the same opinions. They turn so hard.
Yeah, that does. Yes, that it is. Who I feel like you see that what's her name? Candace Owens. Candace Owens.
Oh, Candace Owens.
I always mess that up. Candace Owens. I feel like she was like a vocal liberal for a while, right? And she's like, oh, wait a minute, I can harness this power.
Yeah.
and get in front of Congress.
Even people who aren't doing it for money, like look at J.K. Rowling. Like what she got in trouble for was like very mild.
Yeah.
Like she literally just said, like, trans rights are important, but there's like a lived experience to having grown up as a woman, and everyone like she got like people tried to cancel her for that, and then she started getting like daily death threats from trans people, and now she's like, well, yeah, maybe trans people are garbage.
That'll do it when it's like, well,
they keep trying to shove their girl cocks down your throat.
Yeah, suck my girl dick from the back is the most convincing argument.
Yeah, maybe these aren't human rights. I don't know.
Oh man, it's so funny that like didn't she open up like a shelter for like female rape victims, and then like they shat on her for that?
Yeah, white supremacy Nazi rape victims, Joe.
I know exactly. Yeah.
So only rape victims who have been raped in their vaginas, Joe, which is inherently
that's exclusionary. Well then. I feel bad for her, even though she's like a billionaire. And I kind of don't. What I've always said about J.K. Rowling was she kind of courted this shit for a while when she would do things like be very vocal about like refugee stuff. When it's like, okay, then you house some of them in your fucking mansion,
right?
And or in your neighborhood, like you don't live there and you don't have to deal with any of the issues that come with just flooding in people from a different culture that have some stark, opinions that actually they have some of the biggest intersectional pretzels, like gay, like views on gay people. And it's like, oh wait, they don't share our progressive views in the West of like LGBTQIA+ rights. Oh, that's surprising. And then she kind of courted that shit when it came to race stuff with like, I never said Hermione isn't a woman of color. And then someone shows a passage that's like, Hermione's pale white skin. It's
like, not to mention in the book, she mentions every other time someone's black.
Right.
It's the first thing she says about
yeah. And that actually is a good gripe that, once in a while the crits have a point where like, as a fiction writer, I do try and be conscious of like, you shouldn't just mention someone's race when they're not white. Like that is an issue where it's like, oh, you mentioned their ebony skin or they're like brown, russet skin or whatever that is. But like for white people, you just never mention it because it's assumed they're white. I do think that's wrong. Sure, right? Like there's a good argument. It's like white isn't the default. Like you should be consistent either way.
Yeah.
But that being said, J.K. Rowling did not do that. And she was just trying to like play in that moment of like super race sensitivity and to give some like raw meat to her, very progressive young reader base who then turned on her because they always do. Like they will always turn on you because they don't have good values.
Yeah, it's so funny when authors do that. Like they'll take like a best-selling novel that they wrote, and then like fans will be like, "Hey, this wasn't diverse enough." Like, "Oh, I didn't say that the lead character wasn't transgender, in a wheelchair and neurodivergent." And it's like, okay, but you had 500 pages to do that, and you didn't. Like,
yeah. Well,
here's the other thing: is you don't have to explain when people. You don't have to write a description that someone's neurodivergent. Their actions usually speak for that.
Yeah.
Well, I do think like there's such an issue with the self censorship, like the canceling there, where you'll get. And what I always want to tell writers and authors, or even other like I don't know, or I almost use the term content creator. Fuck me, artists. When they do, it's like, who do you think these critics are? Like a lot of them are just like pissed off 17-year-olds who are going to Vassar next year. Like their opinion doesn't matter. Right. Like yeah, you will get some colleagues who will criticize you. Again, they're probably listening to those same pissed off 17-year-olds. Like that's what happened with Trader Joe's a few years ago, where to their credit they pushed back and they didn't do this, but it was like some kid made some online petition about like Trader Jose's is racist. It's like, there's just a fucking kid in the basement. You know what we used to say online in the basement and like chat rooms and Xbox Live and Warcraft and shit. We did the most horrible stuff. Imagine if we just channeled that into creating online petitions, like the horrible shit we would have tried to do. Like that's just what kids do now.
Right.
By the way, I noticed that kid didn't try to stop Trader Giotto's. Only Trader Jose's. It's only a problem when it's Jose. Yeah. But when the Trader Giotto's olive oil is just fine.
But isn't Joseph an Italian? Isn't that Giuseppe though? Like, shouldn't it be Trader Giuseppe?
Or the Trader Giotto?
Is Giotto Joe? Is that?
That's not the important part.
Oh no.
Joe is Giuseppe.
It is Giuseppe. Yeah. Maybe it is Trader Giuseppe's. I don't know. But either one.
It was Giotto's. I think that was I was offended by the fact that it wasn't called Trader Giuseppe's.
Right, for us.
Yeah.
Not Italian, but supportive.
In Trader Joe's defense, they know that most people are too dumb to realize that Giuseppe is Joe.
So what's going on with the comedy scene in LA these days? Is it good? Is it bad? Or is it?
It's in a pretty interesting place, I feel like, because like when I first moved here, it was very saturated with like just really famous people. You went to the Comedy Store on any given night of the week, and it was just a lineup full of like any of people who like any comedy fan in the country has heard of. National headliners. A lot of them have left. Like Rogan's gone, Tom Segura is gone. Ron White, like a bunch of others.
They all just go to Texas.
Yes,
they're all in Austin. Because that's where Kill Tony is now at the mothership. Mothership.
Austin is also a garbage place and it's a dumb place to live.
Wait, really? You don't like Austin?
Dude, it's 100 degrees with 85% humidity. What kind of an idiot would move to this city?
It's that humid in Austin?
It's terrible.
Oh, I thought it was dry. I thought it was a
No,
dry.
Oh no,
not
it's
at all.
crazy humid. Yeah.
Oh, I know Houston was. I didn't know.
Dude, taking a shower there is useless. It's like, because I was just there a few months ago, so it's like you take a shower, all right, cool, I'm all fresh and clean, and you go outside within like 10 minutes. And if it's a hot day, within 10 minutes, you're just like, shit, I need another shower. Like I'm hot and sweaty and sticky, and it sucks.
See,
Texas is a dumb state. People should stop being proud of it. We used to be a country. Yeah, the whole time you were a country, you were trying to become a state, and we didn't want you to.
Yeah.
Suck it, Texas.
I have never been to Austin. I want to go, but
It's a fun place.
Yeah,
I don't.
Austin's pretty cool. Yeah.
I don't know, because I thought it'd be fun to say you went somewhere like during, even if it's not great, like you went somewhere during a moment. Like it's obviously having a moment, and it has for a few years. Like people still talk about like being in San Francisco in the late '60s or being in New York in the '70s. It'd just be kind of cool to say that, but then again, I don't know if I'd hate it because like it's like not what I kind of picture it being. Yeah. And I've even read something where like there's this town south of Austin, because you know how the whole thing's like don't California my Texas. Yeah. Well, then there's like this town south of Austin. It's like don't Austin my so and so, like whatever this town's called. I forget, like a small city that's like what Austin used to be.
Right.
So I don't know. I just want to go to the Texas Chili Parlor. That's like the only reason I want to go, because that's where a lot of Death Proof was filmed.
Oh, interesting.
And I like going to places that run movies, and it looks like a cool little bar restaurant.
Yeah.
I mean, Austin's a fine city. It's fun, but it's like people like Texas too much, and it's a dumb place.
Well, I mean, it's one of those places where because when I was there, you know, like whenever I had like an Uber driver, I'd ask them a little about themselves, and they would always say like, "Oh, yeah, I'm originally from LA, or I'm originally from San Francisco or the Bay Area," and like, you know, I love Austin because like it has a lot of the cultural stuff, has all the nightlife and concerts and restaurants and bars. It just costs like a third less. So I think that's part of it. It's like you can kind of have your cake and eat. You can have all the fun, cool stuff to do, but it doesn't cost nearly as much to live. That might be changing though with the economy, but that was kind of and this is before the pandemic. This is like in 2017 or 2018 when I was there. So yeah.
Weren't you there? You were there a few months ago though too, right?
Yeah, that was just in San Antonio though.
Oh, that's San
I was in
Antonio.
Austin.
You were in
last
Austin
month.
Okay.
And was that your first time?
Yes, and listen, it's like I said, it's a fun town, and it's definitely cheaper than LA as far as like doing stuff to go out. I couldn't speak to like the cost of rent. Yeah. But it wasn't, you know, it's not like when you go back to your college town, you're like, oh my God, drinks are a quarter.
Yeah,
yeah, man. I was talking about that recently.
Prices.
Yeah, there's a deal where you get like $2 Rolling Rocks at my bar that we'd go to for college on like Wednesday nights or something, in between the $8 for a pitcher and wings. And then the silver coin night where they'd spin a wheel and every drink for an hour was whatever coin it landed on. So it'd be like a nickel. So you're getting like vodka sodas and whiskey gingers for a nickel.
Oh, nice.
That's true. But I mean, like I was saying, like a lot of the famous comedians have like moved away. And so now there is much more of like it. While I'm sure it's probably not as attractive to like fans of comedy, it feels much more doable as like someone who's trying to break into comedy. Because like I know people who routinely go up at the Comedy Store, who work at the Comedy Store. Like it feels like the people who are on a similar level to me are now at the place where I'm trying to get, rather than, you know, you look up to the thing you're trying to do and it's Joe Rogan and Bill Burr there.
Yeah.
So I think it's a cool time to be doing comedy in Los Angeles. It feels like there's a lot more opportunity.
That's cool because I can see where it's like, you know, before it was like, you know, A-listers, and now the competition is you know, the fellow losers, right? So it's like fellow nobodies, you know, just like.
And it's important to remember that we are all losers.
No, but seriously, I mean, I do like that. I mean, like, I wonder, like, do you think that there's any kind of like movement or any sort of like, this is like a new era that could lead to something interesting, or is it too early to tell, or is it, you know what I mean?
I think you're definitely going to see a lot of names. Like, you're going to see a lot more people kind of coming up and getting famous.
Yeah.
But I will say there's also like this side of me that stand-up comedy to me feels like something that comes and goes in waves.
Yeah.
And like it gets very popular, and then it gets kind of like saturated, and then it becomes almost like so many people do it that there's a lot of bad comedy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't know if we're getting to that point just because I don't think you're going to go out to like regular shows at the Comedy Store, produced by the Comedy Store, and ever be like a lineup full of shitty comics. I don't see that ever being the case.
Right.
But there is like this worry that I'm like, man, did I just get in at the worst time? Where like when I'm like 10 years into it, comedy's just not going to be popular at all. Like it's going to be like it was in the 80s where it's just a fucking, or like in like the late 80s, early 90s where no one's getting famous for it except for like 2 people.
Yeah.
Are the crowds any different from I don't know, a few years ago?
Yeah,
like when
when
I
you
started
first
coming
moved?
on the show. Oh yeah, when you first moved.
I mean, not by a ton. I would actually, if anything, I think some of the crowds have gotten less PC.
Yeah.
I think there is, and I think like you see it a little bit everywhere with the kind of, I guess you call it the zeitgeist is pushing back against the feeling of everything being so PC. You see almost more comments on stuff about how shitty it is that stuff is PC than the PC comments on there that the people are fighting against.
Right.
Right.
And I think you're seeing a little bit of that in the audiences where they're pretty okay with people pushing stuff. There are certainly rooms where that's not the case, and I'll still occasionally see people get called out for stuff that is stupid.
Right.
But overall, like generally speaking, audience members, they're down for a good amount, and there's also not a lot of people like yelling at you if they don't like your opinion. They just don't laugh.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask, have you ever been heckled?
Not really. People will like say stuff occasionally. I've never had like a really like a moment that kind of sticks in my mind where I can be like, this guy actually heckled me. He like tried to, fuck up what I was saying. Like people will occasionally yell stuff out, but I don't engage with it all that much.
Yeah.
And it's never been to the point where they're like actually trying to speak to me or, argue with my joke or something.
Right.
I think it's pretty rare to see in Los Angeles, to be honest with you, because it's an entertainment town.
Right.
Yeah.
And people get that, and
Gotta
especially
respect
a lot
the
of
biz.
and a lot of the shows that I do are they're not these shows where so many random people are coming in just because they see X comedian. Most of them are connected to somebody on the show,
Right.
because none of us are draws. We're just fucking people.
Yeah.
And so I think it's way more often that famous people or, people who are famous enough to just sell tickets based on their name get that, because the people in the audience don't actually know anyone who's performing on the show. They're just there to be entertained. But they're there because their friend knows the comedian. They have no fucking connection to the person on stage.
No.
They got dragged to the show and they were told it was funny, and now they're drunk and they think they're funnier than the comedian.
Does Adam Egan, does he still work at the Comedy Store?
No, he's down in Austin at Joe Rogan's new club.
Oh, of course. He's at the Comedy Mothership? Oh.
Yeah, he's the booker there.
Oh.
Have you guys been to that place?
I walked by it.
What is it? Is it like massive? Is that?
It's hard to tell from the outside, but it looks pretty big. I kind of wanted to like go in and see if I could hang out the way you can at the store.
Yeah.
But there is like the Comedy Store has like an outside patio where you walk in, so it's very accessible to hang out at.
Yeah.
That was like just looked like a show space, and it was kind of early in the night, and it was all just door people kind of standing there. I didn't want to walk and be like, hey, anybody hanging out?
Like, get the fuck away from us.
I don't know if you know this. I'm a comedian from Los Angeles.
Oh man. I always liked that about the Comedy Store. Like just like that hangout vibe. It's really easy to just kind of bump into famous comedians there. But yeah, that is a bummer that so many famous comedians have left.
It isn't, and it isn't.
Right.
I think it's very cool that people who were kind of, putting like your bench warmers and you're just like stuck down on the depth chart for a long time are getting much bigger spots there.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, the PC thing is interesting because the last time I went to the Comedy Store, it was before the pandemic. So this is probably like early 2019, I think. And I went to the Comedy Store, and Joe Rogan was the headliner, but it was one of those ones where it's like they had like 2 hours of comedians doing like 15-minute slots. And there was pretty big ones. I remember Theo Von was one of them. I think Chris D'Elia, before he got Me Too'd, was one of them. So there are a lot of pretty big comics there. And I remember there was this one old timer guy, like this guy who probably started doing comedy back like in the late '80s, and he's probably like never quite became famous, but he's good enough to stay at the Comedy Store. Like he's just got like a residency, like a lifetime residency at the Comedy Store, and he made some un-PC jokes. And I remember there were some people in the audience who kind of booed a little bit. And I remember just being like all cranky and like, "Hey, what? How come you kids don't like jokes no more? Like this and that." It was really hacky. But like, I'm glad. But like I said, that was like about 4, maybe 5 years ago. So I'm glad that the tide is starting to turn a bit in terms of acceptance for comedy that pushes the boundaries a bit.
Yeah, and I remember talking to one of my buddies about it, who does some pretty like edgy stuff.
Yeah,
and he was saying. And again, it is rare for people to like yell out and boo at your opinion.
Yeah.
Even if they don't laugh, because sometimes it's not because they don't think it's funny, it's because they're like, oh, "Is that okay to laugh at?"
Right.
Mm-hmm.
If you should be like, "Fuck you, that was funny."
Yeah.
And sometimes it breaks the whole thing open, and people laugh. It's like, you're right, it was funny. Shit.
Louis C.K. was talking about how one of his favorite comedians these days is Shane Gillis.
Shane's great.
Yeah, I love Shane Gillis. And he was talking about he's interesting because he's got like a red state personality, but he knows how to cater to like Brooklyn, like millennials. So he knows how to kind of straddle the different times. And he's like, like he had this one joke where he got up on stage and he goes, "So my dad's a Fox News guy," and then everyone boos. And I'm like, "Yeah, hey, come on, all your dads are Fox News guys too." And then everyone starts laughing and cheering and clapping. So it's like it's interesting how he's able to kind of like flip it.
Yeah, he does. He's interesting like that. I had a lot of fun listening to Bert Kreischer talk about him because he opens for Bert on some of his tours.
Yeah,
and he was saying because Bert has 2 daughters who are that kind of Gen Z teenager age, and I think on the more liberal side.
Yeah.
And he was talking about how Bert's daughter was like, "I'm not like Shane is someone that she's supposed to not find funny."
Right.
Because he got thrown off SNL for being being racist, and
right.
he is a little bit of like a red state guy.
Yeah.
But he's so funny, and so he does it so kind of friendly too.
Yeah.
He's not out there like a lot of edgy comics who are like in your face trying to be like, "Fuck you,
right.
You fucking pussy liberals." Like that's not how he delivers it at all.
Yeah.
That she was laughing while trying not to. She went in there trying not to laugh at it, but she can't help it because it's just so funny, and he's so good at it.
What's that? Oh, fuck, I forgot his name. I saw this comedian. He's been on Louis. Remember Louis' show?
Yeah.
Not Lucky Louie, just Louie.
Yeah.
He's been on. He's like one of those guys who you see once in a while. I can't remember his fucking name. I saw him though.
What does he look like?
He's white.
Nice.
You gotta give me more than that.
I honestly can't fucking. I don't even remember.
Fat guy, short guy.
No, he's just kind of a dude, like probably in his 50s now. He is. So if you've seen Louis, do you remember the guy who's
is
like
he very conservative? Is it Nick DiPaolo?
No, I know Nick DiPaolo.
Okay.
No, he. I would have said like greaseball Italian if I was describing Nick DiPaolo. This guy, if you've seen the show Louis, he is on. He's like opening for Louis at some point. He's like lighting his farts on fire and just like being and just like kind of being obnoxious. And Louis kind of like snarking at him and looking down at him. But then realizes like it's actually very funny. And just like to kind of go with the flow more. And he goes to take an upper decker when Louis taking a shit and he falls and cracks his head open and dies in the show. I forget his name, something like Horn, something. Anyway, because he was funny. Like I liked him a lot. I don't think the crowd was great where I saw him. Because I remember one time like I laughed at something he said that I thought was very funny. He's like, yeah, spread it around. Like kind of saying like the crowd's not great. I just love comedy shows and I thought the openers were great. This was an AC. Anyway, at the same time, he kind of had that thing that was like some book about him and his son just kind of complaining about what now I think we would call like woke cancel culture crits or like that sort of thing.
Right.
It was like, I don't really find that funny either, where it's just like you said, that comedian just getting on like being edgy for edgy's sake.
Yeah.
It's like being offensive to be offended. Like, I don't think that's funny either. That's just like, you're just kind of throwing red meat to your base to piss off. Like, look, I'm all for owning the libs, but you got to do it tactfully.
Right.
But like be funny about it.
Yeah. And that's the thing that it's a weird balance in comedy where you don't like, you still want to have, you know, your voice and your brand, and you don't want to be the guy who shows up to like a show in Arkansas and fucking, you know, talks about SEC football and, you know, when I talk about a tranny, I'm talking about my truck. And then you do a show in Brooklyn like the next day and you're talking about how the Electoral College shouldn't exist. Right. You should sell. But like, you should also know how to sell your message to not your crowd.
Right.
Like that is, if you're actually good at comedy. And like, that's what Shane Gillis does. Like his message is not, you know, I would say liberal. It's not woke. It's not progressive.
Right.
But he kind of sells it in a way where it's like, I'm not the bad guy.
Right.
Well, I think a good example, I don't mean to like quote other comedians right now, but he has this great bit on like Olympics. No, like racism and it's like and football where it's like remember the Titans, you know, they had segregation and deep racism for like hundreds of years, and they integrate the football team. It's like, holy shit, the varsity team's 4-0. Those are my brothers. Like it brings the whole town together because the varsity football team is winning. Like, yeah, I mean, transgenders, you just put a good ground and pound together and they'll get equal rights. So it's kind of like, or he's like, yeah, well, I got, you know, it's like Alabama fans. It's like they've, you know, you look at the football team, it's like overwhelmingly black. And it's like, yeah. And these, they thought that, like, there was a time it's like Alabama's football team didn't integrate to like 1973 or something. It's like, that's insane. That's not that long ago. Right. But it's kind of, I kind of got a little bit that in me. It's like a white guy catches the ball on Sunday. It's like, go, up. They got him. They got him. It's like,
I never understood when I was a kid. I think, Ben, you were kind of the same way. All my favorite players were black. And
yeah, I mean, it's hard. Yeah.
I never understood like why guys our dad's age would like kind of root for the white guy. I was like, that guy's such a fucking loser. But then you get a little older and you're like, come on, buddy.
Fucking Christian.
Get one for us.
Doesn't matter that Christian McCaffrey's on a rival team.
Yeah, exactly.
Duke could ball out. Yeah, no, I definitely, you know, Barry Sanders was one of my favorites. Ricky Williams. I just loved running backs, but yeah, it's like, dude, fucking hit me with a white safety. Oof. you know, I love me a white safety.
Wayne Corbett was always my favorite. But
Wayne Corbett was great. Yeah, good. Hey, you need a good possession receiver.
Exactly.
Guy get the ball
in the league.
3rd and 6. You know where you're going with that button hook.
Knew exactly where the chains were. You know,
smart. He was a smart player.
Cerebral, lunch pail, working class,
gym
all
rat.
the other things.
Like he went to Hofstra. It's like he's from Long Island. Joe doesn't follow football.
Yeah, I watch sports things.
You watch sports things?
Yeah, all the sports, all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This isn't soccer, buddy.
So the Raiders played against the 49ers. I know about that.
Recently?
Yeah.
I don't really pay attention to preseason.
One thing I think we can get Joe on board with football with is, Ben, did you see the prison sentence that Henry Ruggs got?
No. What was it?
He got like 6 to 10 years because he was driving like 130 miles an hour in Las Vegas and killed someone.
Jeez.
And the best part, though, was that after the sentence, O.J. Simpson hopped on Twitter to talk about how easy Henry Ruggs got off.
It's an injustice. Hey, Twitter fam. Hey, Twitter fam. I think the Henry Ruggs sentence is an injustice. You cut a woman's head off.
Let me tell you, he really got off easy. This American justice system.
Now, Joe follows some. You follow some sports. Well, your dad's a big Raiders fan.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Dude, I mean, I never really got why Oakland had sports to begin with.
Yeah.
But I just never thought of them as but there's a lot of people in California.
Yeah.
But they're losing everything.
I know.
Like they're losing the Athletics now.
Yep.
Vegas. So here's what I was talking about this recently. More cities, and Vegas had the perfect opportunity to do this, and they didn't. And maybe it didn't time up well, fine. But like more teams, I think more cities should embrace one color palette for their teams, like Pittsburgh does. Like all Pittsburgh sports are the same colors, and it's fucking awesome. And Vegas didn't have any teams, and now they're gonna have 3, and they had the chance to do this. And I understand, like, you can't change the Raiders colors.
Right.
But if they were planning to get the Raiders when they got the Golden Knights, obviously don't call them the Golden Knights, but, like, you should have just gone with the silver and black, changed the Athletics, who gives a shit about them. Yeah. And that you could have had that with Vegas. I think that would have been the right move to make.
That's a good point. At least the Golden Knights are black, though.
Yeah, but it would have been so cool. Like New York has this a little, but New York just has too many teams. Like they have 2 of everything. Yeah. So you can't, but you have like blue and orange with the Islanders, the Knicks, and the Mets, because that's what the New York City flag is. But then you have, the Rangers, the Yankees, like all these other teams. And then the other city that should have done this is Minneapolis, because the Vikings are purple. Prince is like purple rain. Like why are the Timberwolves, whatever the fuck colors they are? Right. Or the Wild, like the Wild were created in the year 2000. Like you had the opportunity there to make them purple. That would have been sweet. Yeah. And then everyone associates purple with, and it's also like purple's not a common sports color for pro sports. Like everyone associates Minnesota with these colors. I really think more cities should do that.
I think more teams should be based on the works of the famous literary works, like the Baltimore Ravens.
I love that. I said that recently, actually.
Did you really?
Great. Yeah, I was just in Maryland.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought you meant on the show, not
no, life. Just in my private life. You weren't there. You had to be there. Okay. Inside joke. You weren't there. Should have been
there. So taking this back to comedy. So have you experienced much of like the underground comedy scene, Pat, in LA? Like backyard parties or like sort of like
literally subterranean.
I
haven't done anything literally underground, I don't think. Probably a basement here.
You gotta be in the know. Basements count. There aren't a lot of basements in California.
Yeah.
No, I guess it's illegal, isn't it? Kind of.
Earthquakes.
Yeah.
It's illegal. God, you guys don't have any fun out there. But I want to make a basement in my house. I should be able to make a fucking basement.
Just dig a hole and put a house on. Yeah. Actually, the last 2 houses I lived in actually had basements, but I mean, they were much older houses though. So
you know how I know that California doesn't have a lot of basements?
I know because of Zodiac.
That's
right. I remember that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, so any like weird off the.
I'm not too in touch with like that part of the scene. I guess would be considered like the alt scene.
Yeah.
That is not my game, because I think that is the scene that does tend to skew a little more liberal
right
out here.
Yeah.
And it's also just like it's kind of like the weirder, it's less kind of straightforward comedy and more.
It's like the Def Jam poetry of comedy.
Yeah, just being fucking weird.
Or it's like anti-humor or anti-comedy or
and here's the thing about anti-humor and anti-comedy is it's pretty fucking anti-funny usually.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I can't get into the thing where people are like, when you start doing characters, man, unless you're really good, fuck off.
Yeah.
Unless you're what's his name? Who's the guy who did a character and then just became that character?
Dice,
yeah.
Oh yeah.
He was doing that in the 80s. You could get away with doing characters in the 70s and the 80s.
Right.
There's too many people who are good at just doing comedy now.
Been any satanic comedy shows?
No, I don't get invited to that kind of stuff.
Joe does.
Jesus.
Joe goes to satanic meetings.
Dude,
he says
I've been to a few. Yeah, I've been to a few. Yeah,
on my ass.
They're really lame though. These are like woke vegan Satanists. Like these are not like.
There's not even fun.
I know. Yeah, these aren't like sacrificing babies under a blood moon sort of thing. Like this is just like.
What's the point?
I know. It's just very political. It's very political. These Satanists. It's so dumb.
I want to go to Satanist meetings to escape.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I don't want to hear about the Electoral College.
You want to hear about like state-run oppression and
Yeah.
and
Every Satanist meeting is just a bunch of chicks trying to put a curse on Donald Trump.
yeah.
You know,
That's not
It's-
working,
that's not-
ladies. Get a life, Satanist. Actually,
I
it
went
might
to
be
a-
working. I think he's fucked, but I don't know. We'll see.
I went to a comedy show in Skid Row.
Why
What?
would anyone have a comedy show there?
It was like one of these like secret comedy shows sort of things, I guess. It was actually all right. Like there were actually some pretty decent comics. But the headliner was Jamie Kennedy.
Oh,
Really?
yeah.
Yeah, who looks like he fits right in at Skid Row these days. Have you guys
He
seen him?
does?
See what he looks like? He's all like disheveled. He's got a
Is he
beard.
strung
he's-
out?
Yeah, he looks crazy looking. He's a hope. He looks like a hobo.
What's he doing these? I guess comedy
These
shows on
under-
Skid Row.
Yeah, well, it's funny because the name of the place it was an actual art gallery. It's called the Shit Art Gallery. It's like, of course, it would be in Skid Row, right? I mean, but he was like the surprise headliner.
Is it just getting robbed every night?
I guess. I don't know.
So he's not doing too well.
I went to the nice part of Skid Row though. This was not. This was
I
not.
don't,
Too
I
bad.
don't believe you.
So the Arts District.
Yeah, yeah.
I couldn't
Yeah.
believe the first time I looked at a map of that area in Los Angeles. The map actually says Skid Row.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was just a nickname. I thought it was
Yeah.
just.
When
actually
you
called
guys
Skid
named
Row.
your neighborhood Skid Row, what did you think was going to happen? Who
Yeah,
did you
shit
think
alley,
was
like-
going to move in?
The shit.
I mean, do you think that's why like they named it wrong and so it just attracted the wrong crowd?
It
No.
would be so funny if if it was a normal neighborhood and they just like named it Skid Row.
Yeah.
Like I have to imagine it happened because it was filled with homeless people.
Right.
Yeah.
But even
It's like
still, that would-
downtown. That's like prime
Yeah.
real estate if it wasn't full of violent heroin addicts.
drug addicts, yeah.
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 Um.
Unfortunately, it is.
Are heroin addicts even violent? I feel like they're too busy being on heroin.
Yeah.
When they're not.
Yeah, probably.
It's the
Yeah.
in between parts.
That's true.
There was I read I think it was an LA Mag a couple of years ago. There was like a socialist comedy collective in LA.
Oh, I'm
Oh,
sure it's
God.
hilarious.
Oh my god! And
Actually, I
it
read
was-
about them too.
Yeah, it was so weird, man. It's so. I mean, first of all, it was super lame because they wanted to do like basically segregated comedy shows where it's like we're not saying black, like we're not saying white people aren't allowed. We're just saying this is for blacks sort of thing. So, and then they also had this thing where it's like we don't believe in cancel culture. We don't think that you should get canceled if you say the wrong thing, but we do recommend that if you want to stay in the collective that you take a sensitivity class. And it's like I don't want my comedians taking sensitivity classes. Like I don't want them.
All laughs must be spread out evenly.
It's the lamest fucking thing ever. It's like this after school like latchkey comedy thing. It's so lame. It's like for children. It's stupid.
Yeah, I mean that's there are rare exceptions where like I might like I was hosting a mic the other night and I did have to tell a comic I'm like, hey, I need you to stop talking about that.
Yeah.
But that's like very rare.
What was he talking about?
So he was on. I had made a joke at the beginning of the mic about how it's an old kind of like played out premise about like how there are women who say they're just as horny as men, and like obviously that's a ridiculous thing to say because
Yeah,
have
scientifically
you met
accurate.
men?
Yeah.
And then there's a female comic went on a few comics after me and made a joke about how she think that's actually different for Gen Z. Like all the dudes at Gen Z are just pussies and they're not horny. And like about this guy who like wouldn't fuck her, and she was a cute girl.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last guy on the mic was this like older comic, like in his 50s, and was like, yeah, I would fuck you. And she's just like a young like 22-year-old girl.
Yeah,
It's like whatever. And then he said it like made another. He was like, yeah, you're like so hot. I think he said it like 5 times that he would fuck her.
Yeah.
And like, listen, I'm not none of it. At no point did anyone laugh at it. That was the other.
Yeah, it's not
Right.
funny. It's just
if it's
that's
funny
just
and
like
it
creepy.
plays, you can let it go, kind of.
Yeah,
But like it's clearly making the room and this woman very uncomfortable.
Mhm.
Right.
And so I tried to do it in like the most like heinous way possible. Like, Steve, I need you to. I'll let you say anything you want up there, except for how badly you want to fuck Melissa.
Yeah.
Okay. So please move on.
Oh, so
Yeah.
they got to you too.
Yeah.
the progressive agenda.
Oh,
But yeah,
man.
it was just.
It would have been funny. It would have been funny. He could have saved that bit by saying, "You remind me of my daughter."
Oh my god, I might have laughed at that actually.
That would have been funny because it's so gross and absurd. Sounds like something Louis would say.
No.
It does. But yeah, I was just like, my thing with that is, it's one thing to do that, kind of like even at a show where like the audience is there expecting to like maybe get shit on. Like this girl shit up. She paid her $5 to do comedy as well.
Right.
Can we treat her like she's a fucking comedian?
Right.
Yeah.
Don't make your whole set about how you want to fuck her. Like you did it once, it didn't work. Like just please move on from it.
Right.
And
it's
then like from
you're not
business
even a daddy.
standpoint, too.
Like you're not even hot.
No, he's not. But like also from a business standpoint, and it's not my business, but like I'm hosting the mic for someone else. And this becomes known as like the place where if you're a female comic, you go and 50-year-old dudes are trying to fuck you. Like that's not good for business.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the most important thing. I think that's more important than the feelings and everything,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
But you're right though, where it's like it's like, okay, you tried to be edgy, it didn't work, move on to, and then it's like, okay, now you're just being a dick.
Yeah, it's not an edgy take. That's just being gross.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
like
it's not an edgy take because we would all fuck her. It's not edgy at all. We're men. That was the whole point of my joke.
I'm looking at this article.
Melissa's hot, okay?
I'm looking at this the article, the LA Times article, and so this collective is called the Comedy Co-op, because of course it is.
Co-op is just a new term for commies.
Oh no. And so I got a quote from I guess like one of the leaders of this co-op. What's important to me is to be solution oriented. If someone screws up on stage, we're not going to kick them out. There's going to be accountability. We tell them to act better and to give them tools. We need to have sensitivity training. And this is like what's going on in a comedy collective.
Yeah, see, that's like sensitivity training for comedy.
And accountability, like that joke that you made on stage was offensive, and it's like it's one of the be like, hey dude, like that joke like was really lame. Can you work on that? Can you massage that joke a little bit better? But it's like to say that it was inappropriate and
I feel like that shit just gets. I'm not a comedian. I've never been in a green room, but I feel like that's where it gets settled. Like you just give that person shit for not being funny,
right?
And if it's offensive but it's funny, then like that's the point.
Yeah,
like there's some truth in that. That's why it's funny, or it's so. Well, whatever, the delivery, it's awkward, it touches a nerve, whatever it is, like there's reasons funny. If it's not funny, rip on them for being not funny, not for being insensitive.
Right.
Exactly. And do you know what the accountability for having a shitty joke is?
No one laughs.
Yeah. Fucking you get held accountable for it right away when no one fucking laughs at it and your set's terrible.
Right.
But what was it? Was it I've heard it on Rogan. I don't know if he came up with the term, but it's like to describe bombing on stage is to like watch your mom suck 1,000 dicks or something. it's like that's punishment enough.
Exactly, it really is. That's the thing. The bomb is punishment enough.
Yeah, I watched a girl get on stage. I was at there's this cool little Pat. If you're ever in New Orleans, did I not take you there?
No, you didn't.
Station?
No, you didn't.
No, Pat did visit me in New Orleans. It's this cool like local bar. But they'll have like I remember when I was there, Hannibal Buress just like showed up and went on stage. So like they'll get big name people, but I was just there for a regular open mic night where it was a mix of people who obviously you could tell had done this for a while and people who literally it was the first time getting on stage. And I thought it was great. Like I just like live comedy. I thought it was very funny. just watches one girl get up there. It's like white knuckle grip the mic like this. It's like swaying back and forth, and like barely get any words out, and then just like stumble off stage.
Oh man,
that's a tough one. I've seen people do that, and it's painful to watch. And the tough part is like you want to laugh for them.
Yeah,
like you're almost begging them, like, give me something to laugh at.
Right.
This is so tough to sit through.
Right.
But when like, it's almost like if you don't laugh at, if they don't have a punchline, there's nothing to laugh at, and it's like it would almost be rude to laugh at. Like if you laughed while in the middle of this sentence, I'd be like, what the fuck are you laughing at?
Yeah.
You know, like I didn't say anything funny.
Right.
And I've seen, and here's why I don't get into like the alt comedy. I've seen comics like that get up and pretend to do that.
Yeah.
I'm
like pretend to be just
that exact, like
nervous and
like they can't get words out. I'm like, what are we doing here, man?
Yeah. And also, you're not doing them any favors either by giving them like false laughs. Like we're just like, oh yeah, somebody laughed at that. Okay, I'm gonna keep that one. In my bit. Like,
exactly.
It's a keeper.
I should be not being able to speak. I think that's working.
Yeah.
How many times a week do you go on stage?
Probably 5-ish.
Oh shit,
so,
really?
Yeah, I do
Nice.
open mics, I would say 5 nights a week, and on Sundays I host 5 mics in a row. So Sundays alone, I do 5 sets.
What, are you always at the same venue, or do you move around?
Well, on Sunday I host at this one spot. But other than that, I hop around to wherever, different open mic spots, or if I have a show that week, wherever the hell that is.
Yeah. On Joe Rogan's podcast, he had Mark Normand on, and of course, Rogan started talking about like conspiracy theories and like 9/11, and was talking about like building whatever, and people think that it exploded before the building crashed. And then so Mark Norman's like, oh, is that really true? And he goes, yeah, well, I mean, according to bomb experts, and he goes, bomb experts, they should see your act.
Norman has a great delivery.
Dude, his voice is like, he was like, there's nothing else that he was born to do except comedy with that voice.
Yeah,
Like,
he has a great voice. He's a New Orleanian, and he talks about going to like public high school in New Orleans, just like the race wars that would go on and shit.
That's the kind of city where the whites are losing the race war there, probably.
Yeah, well, the whites, like a lot of cities, the whites are actually growing. Like so a lot of the non-whites are kind of like, fuck, like we had this shit locked down. It's like they'll be like open. You always tell from the realtor terms, like there's this neighborhood in New Orleans called the Marigny, which is like right next to the French Quarter, downriver a little, and it's now like I almost live there. It's like very nice, very authentic in the architecture, and used to be very hipstery and artist like, but now like everywhere it's just expensive. The neighborhood downriver from that is kind of what that used to be, but that already has its own name. But then above what's called St. Claude Avenue, there's a neighborhood that is called like something totally different. It's called the Seventh Ward or St. Rock, and then you see the realtors calling it the New Marigny, and so you just tell it's like, oh, that's just a gentrification term.
That's what you're trying to do.
We got to get the white. Pat, you'll appreciate this because you know these towns. But have you ever heard Maplewood? Do you know what they call realtors call Maplewood?
Oh,
it makes me want to tear my head out.
Brooklyn West or whatever?
Yes, it's Brooklyn West. Like, it's not even the same fucking state.
No,
it's not even near Brooklyn. Yes,
no, but it is that kind of town where people who lived in Brooklyn who now want to not actually deal with all the bullshit of being a city. You know what I mean? People who like to think of themselves as city people, but had actually given up on being able to do that.
So it's Brooklyn in the sense that it's incredibly segregated, very expensive, and white people don't want to live anywhere near the black people. Yes, it's just like Brooklyn.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Joe, this town was right. Like literally, we bordered, like Pat and my town growing up, we bordered this town called Maple. Actually, my fiance's mom's from there, and it's very, it's like the crossover from like wealthy New Jersey, like to the opposite of that in New Jersey.
Right.
This is kind of like the crossover where part of the town is like very liberal and wealthy and quaint with the great. It does have a good downtown. And train station and all that, and then it gets into like some really rough areas the more east you go. Actually, coincidentally, that there's this. Do you remember during the Satanic Panic, like the whole, like child care centers being accused of like satanic sacrifice and having like all that shit? Well, this is actually where it took place, which is crazy because you would think that would be down in like Arkansas or Florida or Georgia or something like that. But like, no, this was Maplewood, New Jersey, where this, and Barry Weiss did a podcast on interviewing this woman who was literally, I think she served time for just the most absurd accusations of child abuse, like horrific stuff, because the children, said it. Yeah. But children just want to please adults, and they're just kind of seeing that they were getting positive feedback. So they kept just making shit go wilder and wilder. And you had a prosecutor who was just like out to be on a mission. Like that happens a lot. And this woman's life was like ruined, and now she's fine and all that. But it's like, these are like doctors and lawyers in wealthy, liberal Maplewood, New Jersey. And that's where, like, I think it's a really good story, actually. Yeah. I mean, terrible for her and these employees, but a really like interesting kind of like social experiment, like an analytical, anthropological, example of how, well, like it's honestly like the Salem witch trials happened yesterday. I mean, I think this was like the 90s or 2000s, but still. Yeah. Very, very good. But anyway, Brooklyn.
There's no group of people too smart for like mob rule.
Yeah, man. Look at fucking COVID. like look at the shit that happened during COVID. Like how we othered people, and like the horrible things people would say about each other for not getting a vaccine or for not wearing a mask. It's really sick.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, I remember like thinking about it. I was bringing all my groceries. I'm wiping them all down with a fucking Lysol wipe that I had to buy from the Mexican convenience store, because all the regular Lysol wipes, those were gone. You couldn't get those. I had to buy knockoff Lysol wipes.
Off the grid.
This guy was making his own Lysol wipes.
Oh yeah, there was a point where it was terrifying because we didn't know. We had no idea what was going on. March, April, May. Like I remember in February, I was at an annual party I have with my friends. We were rented a cheap Airbnb because it was a beach house. It was February, so super cheap, and we're like, should we be worried about this? Like this shit sounds pretty wild. Then we just went back to playing, drinking games, but that early period was like, it's no one's fault that we were doing those things. It's people who were wiping down their groceries 6 months ago. Yeah. Oh my God. Like that. Those are the people you have to be concerned about.
I know.
I'm still seeing people. I mean, it's like 80, 90 degrees here, and it's like I'm still seeing people wearing, like, young people wearing masks outside. It's like,
seriously,
yeah, I still see them here in LA.
God, dude.
Yeah.
I used to do a joke about that. I see all these, because emo kids are back.
Yeah.
And I see all these, and the whole joke was like, I hate the way Gen Z is doing emo.
Yeah.
Because like I see all these
doing emo.
First of all, they're popular kids, which get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
I see all these emo teenagers wearing face masks, and it's like, listen,
they're like messages on their masks.
No, but it's just like, if you want to be responsible and protect yourself, protect other people, whatever, that's fine with me. But not if you're a fucking emo teenager.
Right.
Go outside and start breaking the rules. It's smoking cigarettes. Like a real fucking emo kid.
They're just smoking it under their mask.
I see that they all go to the same gym as me too. I'm like, get outside and make fun of me for trying now.
Call me a poser.
Yeah.
So have you noticed like different types of like comedians and even audiences varying from like neighborhood to neighborhood in LA, where it's like, okay, the Hollywood crowd, this is what they're like, but this is like the Los Feliz crowd over here, and the Echo Park crowd, this is what they're like over here. Like, do you notice much like differences between crowds?
That's something I think definitely exists a little bit. Like when you get into the more hipstery neighborhoods, it is definitely like that, just because those shows tend to be thrown by people who live there. And
right.
I mean, there's a little bit of that feel.
What's a hipster neighborhood?
Echo
I
Park.
took Echo Park, basically like
Echo
Northeast LA. So like Highland Park is
Park.
my neighbor. Echo Park, Los Feliz, Silver Lake.
Silver Lake, yeah, that would probably be
Silver Lake.
where the most
Yeah.
like hipster shows would happen. Would be
Did we go to
Silver
Echo
Lake.
Park, Joe?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, remember there's that lake,
Yeah.
the famous lake, and then that's also where the Michael Jackson,
The house.
Thriller House was
Thriller
at,
Houses. Gotcha.
There's definitely a little bit of that. So to be honest, like I'll do shows anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've driven down to Orange County for shows. Fucking doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If I'm doing an open mic, I'm not leaving the valley.
Right.
I'm not getting on a freeway.
Yeah.
Fucking, if I have to pay to do comedy, I am not getting on a freeway. Like that's my general rule of thumb.
Yeah.
Unless there's like, you go to this one and someone will book you. And fucking, I'll do that. Whatever. But
Right.
I'm not driving all the way to fucking Silver Lake just to do a bit in front of 9 hipster comedians who aren't going to laugh at me because they don't like that I fucking.
You're not diverse enough. Or,
I'm a white guy because I look like I'm in a frat.
Right.
Well, you weren't a frat.
I was, and I still look like it. And that's why they don't like me, Ben.
Well,
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like whenever I go to any of these neighborhoods, I'll always see posters. It's like, oh, like here's like the LGBTQ comedy night, or here's female like gender non-binary.
Weirdly, I've never been invited to be on those shows.
Interesting.
I've been trying to break into that market.
Yeah, I know some people.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. It's like those themed nights, and also like I'll see that with film festivals. Like this is like an LGBTQ film festival, and it's like most of those movies are really bad, and it's not because of them being LGBT. It's the fact that they put it so front and center, where it's like that's the main point of the movie. It's like, yeah, look at how oppressed we are. It's like that's not entertaining, and I think I wouldn't be surprised if the same thing for comedy. It's like, yeah, we're doing feminist comedy night. It's like I think I know 90% of your jokes are going to be about.
That's my hell. It's just comedy night.
I love that. The thing I love about feminist comedians is that somehow men are simultaneously the dumbest people on earth, but we've also organized all of society to work only for us and against women. It's like you kind of have to pick a lane.
Got to pick one.
Yeah.
Are we incompetent morons or are we evil geniuses?
Right.
You're like, it's not both.
My hell is feminist comedy night, and the waitress is just ignoring me for my drink order. That's hell.
Or she's charging you 20% more to make up for the wage gap.
Wage gap, of course.
Just like a coffee shop in Australia that was doing that. They were having men.
They went out of business.
That's right. Yeah.
I'm not even kidding. I heard about it recently.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not surprised at all by that.
Was that Australia?
I think it was Australia.
I thought it was Yeah, I also know there was
I'm sure a few places have done
socialist one. There's one I listened to a whole podcast about. I forget if it's like a socialist one or a feminist one or some. So in Portlandia, there was a recurring sketch where Fred Armisen and Kerry Brownstein they ran a feminist bookstore. Yeah, and Fred Armisen he would be in drag. He'd play a feminist like chick, and so they shot at a real feminist bookstore in Portland. And they like the owners of the bookstore, they got offended because they're like, oh, like that's transphobic, and it's they're not welcome, right? So they couldn't shoot there. It's like when you watch it, it's like the jokes that they made about feminists were so lighthearted. Like it was not edgy right wing anti-feminist. It was silly, kind of like little jabs at feminism, but it's still pretty progressive humor. But they were so offended they refused to let them shoot there anymore. And then they put out like a statement saying, we don't let this transphobic show, shoot here anymore and this and that. And then the store went out of business, and then they blamed capitalism for going out of business. They had like a sliding book, so it was like you pay whatever you can sort of thing. It's like, I don't know, man. Maybe a little bit of capitalism might have helped you a little. Or just like getting the attention of shooting. Like I just talked about going to a bar in Austin because a movie was shot there. Yeah, like having a very popular show. Capitalize on that. Yeah, capitalize on that. Like people go, I want to go to the bookstore that is in Portlandia. Show that you have a sense of humor. Like, yeah, we don't mind being made fun of a little bit. Like this, we were in a comedy show, and come check out our store. It was like it was such a they killed the golden goose. And it's like if like you're gonna have a socialist feminist enterprise anywhere in America, it would be in Portland, and it would succeed.
Yeah,
If there's one city where it could succeed, it would be Portland.
And they still failed.
I just remember the only scene I
They got.
remember. I haven't watched a lot of that show.
Yeah.
I saw maybe a few episodes. Because I remember is like, I think someone gives them a $20 bill to like buy something, but they can't break it, so they have to like close the store to go to the bank. That was like very funny.
I love when people like, and I'm not some fucking extreme capitalist or whatever.
Sure.
But I always find it really funny when people who don't know anything about history love to blame capitalism for everything.
Yeah.
So like we've been doing this for 2,000 years. Like actually we haven't. Capitalism was invented like 300 years ago.
Yeah.
Most of the things like, we started murdering Native Americans way before capitalism existed. We started colonizing people of color like long before capitalism.
Right.
It's more of a human nature thing than a capitalist thing.
Yeah. But fucking A, man. Portlandia, like stupid feminist bookstore.
I'm actually, well, there goes my pitch for opening a feminist bookstore with you, Joe.
Oh, I love feminism. It's good.
You should open a masculine bookstore.
Yeah.
What you should do, a great experiment, open a masculine bookstore and a feminist bookstore. Just right next to each other and see which one stays in business longer.
Actually, I don't know. Like, I think women read a lot more than men.
I was gonna say men don't really read. That's
which is fucking weird to me because I read a ton, but it's true. Like, but that being said, I also don't, as much as we're ripping on like feminist stuff. Like, I'm not a fan of like manosphere shit.
Yeah,
I find it like very annoying and dumb, and like I think it's like you should have strong male figures in your life and in culture. Like that should all exist, but the manosphere stuff, it to me feels like, I know it's terms overused, but like a total grift. It feels like it's like just another form of snake oil. We've seen now with people like Liver King, like actually he took tons of steroids. Like it was not just him eating livers and organs, organ meat. And I just find the whole kind of vibe to be very off-putting.
It is, and it's also like so much of it is fake because like there's this one dude, I don't know if you remember, he got busted. He had he's bald, he's got a big beard, and he's really into like this sort of like, you know, I forgot what his name was, but super macho dude. But it turns out that he had like made gay porn years ago or something.
Yeah, it was something like that. I followed him for a little, and then I was like,
well, what is more masculine than gay porn? We've eliminated the women.
I know, it's true.
It's just about domination.
So male focused.
Yeah, it's very Greek. You know, it's like we're going back to that. You know, like
very Spartan. It's just what's more dominating than holding down the guy and fucking him in the ass. Like it's the ultimate expression of male domination. But but yeah, I know who you're talking about. Did he do gay porn or did he do like? I thought he even did what's it called, like cuckold porn.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Now, that's
what it
pretty
was.
Anti-masculine.
That's like, I mean, I honestly, what I just said, like, you could make that argument.
No.
Oh, 100%.
About like dominating, like you could spin zone that.
Yes.
You can't spin zone cuckold porn.
I know.
Into being like masculine.
Sharing my wife. Yeah.
Like a cuck
well,
is
maybe that's what sent him down that road, though.
Yeah, that's true.
I am tired of this shit.
God.
I am tired of my wife fucking other men.
If my wife,
they're so manly.
If my wife likes 12 more men, I swear to God, I'm gonna start a manosphere Twitter.
I think his name was Jack something.
Jack. Oh, you're right. Not Jack Dempsey. That was a boxer from the 20s, but it's something
close.
Jack. Oh fuck, you're right. Or are we just thinking of the most guy name ever? Jack.
Who's the guy who started the Proud Boys?
That's Gavin McInnes.
That was Gavin McInnes. Yeah.
Okay. All
right. That's not really is that like manosphere shit? Manosphere stuff's like the guys who talk like this and you got in and they were selling hair supplements and muscle this and I don't know. I just find the vibe very, very. Did Jack Murphy?
Jack Murphy, that's who it was. Yes.
Yeah, Jack
that's
Murphy.
right.
Yeah. I mean, man, the fucking Shakespearean downfall of that guy.
I know. I think he even wrote some articles about like how great it is to get pegged by your wife. Shit.
Hey,
like,
I mean, don't knock till you try that, but
no.
Here's the thing that is not masculine. If you're getting pegged by another man,
no, that's true. Yeah.
perfectly masculine.
Right. Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
But as soon as a woman is in there,
All right, let's get the Venn diagram of what's what's masculine.
Oh man. Yeah. So, which bookstore do you think would succeed though? The masculine one or the feminist one? Which one do you think?
Which one has a bar?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
yeah,
Honestly, though, feminist. I do.
probably.
Really? Because I feel like you might get a bunch of macho dudes who don't read, but just like, yeah, I'm gonna get this Trump book. Yeah, I'm gonna get this
but they're
Jack
not.
Murphy book just to own the feminists.
I don't think they're gonna buy books. That's the thing. Like,
Mm.
I just don't. Honestly, I don't know what it is. Like, I'm a writer. I see who reads my books. I see who leaves reviews. Like, who joins email lists. It's just overwhelmingly women.
Right.
And like, I've written all different types of shit. Like,
Right.
it's just, I don't know. I honestly don't know why that is. Men were just we're too busy counting money and
Too busy
and
doing stuff.
too busy building bridges and losing all of our money on Bitcoin.
I mean,
We're fucking now playing video games. Like, guys aren't doing that shit.
Well, I'm building empires. I know what you losers are up to, but
Are you playing Age of Empires?
Yeah,
Is that what
Age
you're
of
doing?
Empires. Are you playing with the Mamluks?
yeah.
The Mamluks are fighting the Byzantines.
I mean, if the male bookstore only sold books, then yeah, I think the female books, the feminist bookstore would win. But if it was like, we got a bar and a bowling alley and a strip club.
Well, think about it this way.
Kind of stops being a
The
bookstore.
manosphere, like a lot of more women are going to read, I think, overtly women, like feminist shit.
That's
right?
true. Yeah.
Like, doesn't matter what's inside the books. So like, you put up the displays, whatever, versus like man stuff. And then you're gonna get a lot of like soy boy beta cucks who are also gonna read that stuff.
That's
Who are
true.
just trying to, who are honestly just like the beta male predator, which is what I dubbed the kind of the guys in Promising Young Woman. It's like, it's not the typical juice head Gorilla Guido who are, the predators. No, it's like these liberal Brooklyn, LA dudes who are just as bad in their own way.
Gad said refers to as sneaky fucker syndrome.
Yes, they are
pretending to be a feminist, a male feminist.
Yeah, male feminist is like, it's I think it's a red flag.
Yeah.
Like, first of all, you don't have to be a feminist to say like you want equality and people to be treated well and equal opportunity. Like, that's not being a feminist,
right?
Like, that's just being a decent person.
Yeah.
So any like more than that just does get into that sneaky fuckery.
Yeah. All right, guys.
On that note,
let's
all do a feminist bookstore collective in Austin, Texas.
Yes.
All right, man. Pat, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you?
Yeah, Pat _Colicchio, COLICCHIO on Instagram. I think I'm basically that, or just Pat Colicchio on Twitter. I think I'm on TikTok too, but I don't really use it. I post stuff on TikTok, but I refuse to swipe through anything because I don't want the Chinese government knowing what I'm interested in.
Well, they still know. We'll find out.
Now, every time I go on, I'm not interested at all in the first video that pops up. So I'm like, they got no clue.
We can't figure this guy out.
Fucking idiots.
What does he like?
Oh man,
it's just the whole like red People's Party China cabinet just sitting on a long table. We must know.
One day something for college football is going to pop up. We fucking got him.
We got him.
All right, guys. Well,
All
this was fun, and yeah,
crits.
Yeah,
the crits.
And thanks for coming on, Pat.
Yeah,
Thanks,
absolutely.
Pat.
Thank you guys for having me.
Patrick.
Always fun.
Yeah. Take care.